book. And I'm Love Coach Scott Catamas, and this is a very special edition of Straight Talk. We have with us 12 leaders, wisdom keepers, and keepers of the realm, stewards of the realm. You'll understand what that means in a little bit. But the bottom line is we're going to have an amazing show in which we're going to learn a lot about how the different aspects of our social and cultural world can collaborate more effectively. So we've got a big show, a dozen people, but with no further ado, I want to turn it over to my teaching partner, Trish.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's version of Straight Talk. And I am really excited to have bookend this amazing event that just happened over the last week. And I really want to invite Sadiq to share a little bit about himself. I'm just going to read a little bit about you. Sadiq is a global visionary and a leader, and is a founder and global council chair of Earthwalk, a global platform built to unite humanity with a diverse global culture of peace. I've been having a hard time the last few days. In addition to Earthwalk and countless conscious events, Sadiq has served by creating systems for ongoing human and planetary transformation. Sadiq is a social change agent, an active community member in the realms of personal, social, environmental, and integral and health and wellness advocacy for over 17 years. He is leading this beautiful convergence. And take it away, Sadiq.
Thank you, Trish. Yeah, so we 8 days ago, it feels like it's been a decade at this point with all the richness and all the beauty that we've experienced and the depth. In short, we constructed a 12-day journey to support people in understanding what we believe it looks like in order to get from different states of sort of like fractured sort of reality within society to a state of wholeness, AKA to a world of peace. And sort of really breaking down the science of what it takes to get there, but to make it fun, to make it playful, to make it a game, because it's our story at Earthwalk that in order to get there, or at least to get there quickly and with joy and fun, that the more fun we make the journey, the more likely it is that people will choose to go on it. So, yeah. So that's basically what we've been doing for the last 8 days. We started on 12/10, we partnered up with the Greater Collective, and they painted a picture for 3 hours of what would happen if you bring together dozens of organizations from around the world, which is what we did. And they gave the microphone to all these different organizations, collectively painting what a world of peace could look like. And that was sort of the ignition point for the journey into the 12 days. Then Friday night, we had an opening ceremony. We then came on the show with the two of you, and you pre-interviewed us before we went into the journey. Then on 12/12, we purposely chose that, obviously, 12 days, 12/12, 12 sectors, 12 stewards here of each realm, of this different realms of society. And we painted a picture for that entire day, like what does wholeness look like in each of those realms? So in arts and culture, what would a healthy, whole, healed realm of arts and culture, business and economics, what would a healthy version of that sector of society look like? Or justice and protection, governance and sovereignty, infrastructure and habitat, energy and consumption. We went through all the different realms and painted the picture of wholeness. And then what we did is we spent the last 6 days journeying through each of the realm One half of the day was spent in one realm and half of the day was spent in the other realm. And each of the stewards that you see here stewarded a 3.5 hour program where we had a sacred talk with 4 representatives from each of the realms. And then we had a community campfire talk. And then we had a sacred mask ceremony where we talked about how, like, the masks, the hats, the roles we wear in each of these sectors of society, where they serve us and where they don't. And so we really dove in that time into the pain points of each realm. Like, where's their trauma in each of these realms? And we really went there. We went really deeply into like where are there fractures in business? Where are there fractures or traumas in the environment? And then also, like, maybe, like, where does one feel hurt or traumatized by another realm? So it was really powerful, a full week. And here we are, like, at the end of that journey, here to report on what that journey was like.
So my understanding is that we're going to meet each of our amazing panelists. And some of these are people that, I mean, I would love to do an entire show just with John or just with Anastar. I mean, everybody. We've had Jonah on the show and done shows with him. So everybody here has extraordinary wisdom. And so what I think we're planning on doing is each person sharing for 3 minutes and 33 seconds. And please keep it to 333. What realm you're the steward of. Maybe just very briefly a little bit about yourself and then your relationship to that realm. All right. And I do want to ask everybody to kind of keep track of themselves. Pop a stopwatch function on your phone so you can track yourself. All right. And so I'm going to go to John Summers first because I know John the best. John, tell us about yourself and about your realm.
Well, my realm is peace and relations. Small little topic. Seems to me to be a kind of meta topic. And we've had these last couple of days have been extraordinary. We've had the privilege to light a global fire, starting with this fire in the Amazon, this Colectivo Awana, which is the women down there. And they have every reason to want to fight. They have every reason to feel as if they've been totally, extraordinarily violated. And the impact of the fossil fuel industry down there is unbelievable. The disrespect and the disregard and the way that we are destroying the earth and destroying our own lungs and the heart of the planet through the Amazon. But at the same time, the powerful thing that's revealing itself, because I've had the privilege to serve closely and support the work of Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr., who's a friend of the show, right? And the reunion of the eagle, the quetzal, and the condor. And the recognition, as Phil was teaching for all these years, that there is a fourth way. So the first way is assimilation. As you know, people here have experienced that, where we came over as settlers and really forced people to change who they are, put them in boarding schools. And so the assimilation, where they outlaw your dance and your language, that's the first way. The second way is then you fight. You say, no, I won't let that happen. But then the third way, which is unfortunate for many of the natives, is hopelessness and despair and addiction and alcoholism and all the problems. But Phil has been an advocate all these years of the fourth way, which is love, which is consciousness, which is waking up to collaboration and cooperation. And it's been transformative to be in this fire, surrounded by people who are fighting, but also at the same time for them to awaken to the fact that there's only so much you could do with fighting. You give away all your energy, that the indignation they could feel towards the system could be transformed into a loving solution. And that's our responsibility, that both scientifically and morally, it's the right thing to switch as quickly as possible to 100% renewable energy for all purposes, for all people. It's insane. And we have the challenge of dealing with giving these corporations a new business model that's morally just, that's also sustainable for our planet. So it's been a beautiful example to see how the challenge of making peace, really to come up with creative solutions that are win-win. We're not going to win fighting these corporations. They have so much money and so much power. We've got to win them over with love and compassion and offer a better solution, and one that can restore the justice that's been terribly abused. And then we watched this film, Condor the Eagle. You know, those fracking camps, those places up there in North Dakota and South Dakota, there are thousands of indigenous women that are missing. You got guys out there with a lot of money.
John, we really should do an entire show on this, and I definitely would like to do that. So let's.
I'm going to leave it here to say that peace and relations are possible, though. It was so beautiful to be with Erica and for her to realize, yeah, she can be indignant, but don't give away your energy fighting the positive, the negative. Move to the positive, create a positive vision. And that's what I see as the opportunity, one of the key strategies for how you transform what someone that appears to be your enemy into your friend.
Well, thank you. And I know that I'm imagining you're going to do some interesting work with some of the other realms. And to meet another person with realm, I'm going to turn it over to Russell. Welcome, Russell. Tell us a little bit about your realm and your relationship to it.
Oh, thank you, Scott and Trish and Sadiq. Thank you for this opportunity to start my timer. 3:33, counting down. So that's what a way to enter into speaking about arts and culture by putting a boundary around it. So really what came from this extraordinary process, which is a ritual, and my background in the arts is really the healing arts and in music. More music, really as a sound healer. That's my really entrance point into arts. But as I thought about that, actually my entrance into arts are actually through sports and the artistry of just being. I've been an athlete my entire life. So that was an entry point into getting in touch with my body, into the artistry of that. I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, that's really where I entered the arts, as I've been contemplating for this last 8 days about arts and culture. But as far as that we understand arts now, I understand arts now, as far as painting or the visual arts, things like that. I was never really a drawer, someone like that. But really my interface is the healing arts. And I really found that to absolutely be such a profound art. And where I really come from is a deep, deep relationship and endearment with the shamanic arts, the shamanic healing arts, and the cosmology of Peruvian shamanism. And I spent a lot of time down the Amazon and making relations with Maje Peru, this extraordinary sacred land, and learning about the arts, the healing arts, or even, I would say, even the art of spirituality, what that actually is. And what all this has really come down to during our 8-day deep dive, and in my inner contemplation as being a steward of the realm, with communing with the spirit of art and culture, is that the greatest pain is hearing that arts are secondary, phasing out arts out of our culture. A healthy culture essentially includes the arts. There is no way for a society to be healthy without art, artistic expression, creative expression. And as, again, like with the cosmology of, say, shamanism or something of that nature, you go deep enough inward and you come face to face with the spirit of whatever it may be you're communing with, the spirit of life in this sense. And the spirit of life is art. Art is the spirit of life, the creative force that animates all of life. How can we divorce ourselves from the arts? It is insanity. And that's what actually happens in our culture. We go insane when we can't creatively express, meaning when we're not in communion with the creative force of life. I'm kind of done now, but that's really about it. And I had the honor to be able to steward this realm and had some incredible some incredible people to be able to commune with. Gary Malkin for one, Danette Walport as another, Amelie Grace who came on. And these people are really living embodiments of a depth of communion with the arts and the healthy aspects of sharing that with our culture and to create a healthy culture. So I'm not really have much more to say about that, just that it's been unbelievably rewarding for me. And healing takes time. And there it is. Healing takes time. And to have a healthy culture takes time. And that's what we're doing now is we're healing into a healthy culture, fundamentally restoring a sacred trust between our humanity and the natural world, bridging that gap. And that's what's going to lead us to a healthy expression of our arts and culture, and a healthy expression and living of our culture.
Thank you so much, Russell. I really appreciate that. I love when you speak from your heart. And I'd also like to just introduce Media and Communications. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. That is me, and I don the tiara and the cape of creativity to join you all this evening as the Media and Communications Realm Steward. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm Becky Suzik, and it's been just such an incredible week as we're all holding so many different pieces of I see inventing the new media. This is the new media, what you are watching out there. And oh, I need to turn my timer on. I just lost 33 seconds. I'm going down to 3 minutes right now because I really honor this too. Hang on, I'm taking seconds, but it's important. So there we go. So super grateful for sharing space with this incredible, wise collective here, and for the people who joined the Media and Communications Realm discussions, and looking forward to the panel discussion tomorrow. And for those of you who may be just finding this for the first time, behind me is Barbara Marx Hubbard's 12 Wheel of Co-Creation and the 12 realms, and each of us represent a realm. And I guess I feel because I'm in communications, I just have to impart what it is that we're each representing. So one of each of the spokes in that incredible Wheel of Co-Creation. So the challenges in media and communications is there are so many, just walk into 2020, turn on the regular television, or, and you're bombarded with messages of things that divide us and things that divide us within ourselves. And I think if we can come back to understanding the story that we tell ourselves about why we're here in the world, and why the communication in a dialogue that we have with ourselves, and start from that place and move out, we have a lot to grow from when we can reconcile that own personal story. And then the media has a responsibility to bringing truths to front. And some of the things that we identified in our discussions this past week was some of the problems, censorship and money, and questions of what safety is, and policy and politics and funding. And so we brought all of these things into our Zoom room and hashed them all out. And the people on our panel, we had Dara Bal and Heidi Little, and let's see, and Jaya Phillips, and they're extraordinary creativity activists is the way I see it, because they're really envisioning what their piece of the media sky might look like in communications. And so there's a great recording that's available on the Earthwalk Facebook page, and also on the globalfire.earth page, as we streamed content there this week that you can watch from the panels this week from each of our realms. And I encourage you to check that out, and then to join us for more exploration tomorrow in the panel breakouts. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I'll have 30 seconds to have an ad, but I won't take it.
Go ahead, go for it.
No. I was just going to say, I was just being funny, because the media has always been about hurry up and don't have any dead air. So what happens if we just take the last 17 seconds and just hold dead air? There we go. Thank
There
you
we go.
so much.
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you. Well, obviously, science and technology is a very important part of our social cultural realm. And so the steward of that realm is Wendy Silvers. So here's Wendy.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sadiq. What an incredible opportunity to be with such high consciousness folks. And I love the fact that I ended up in science and technology, which I work with the science of consciousness. I'm a midwife of consciousness, and I have been so delighted to be in circle and in dialogue with people. And I'm setting my timer. I have it. There we go. To really speak into the container of how conscious technology helps evolve humanity forward in a different way than some of the examples that we're seeing. And yeah, media is very much a part of science and technology. Quantum physics, I mean, you know, listening to John talk about the fires and honoring the lungs of Gaia, I mean, it's you know, really what it speaks to is how interconnected everything is. And so having the opportunity to talk with Zenka and Jeff Hanusa and Adam Apollo and Boogie, I can't remember his last name. But just that opportunity to really be in circle and explore the ways in which we can bring love and compassion into these areas and to release any of the toxicity that exists from the unconsciousness of using science and technology to harm people instead of to evolve forward. And to really, you know, we had, you know, with Halo and the circle that we had this past Tuesday, to have that opportunity to join in conscious same way about body.
Wendy, your sound has just kind of gone wonky. And your picture is frozen, so it might be an internet issue on your part. And we certainly want to have the complete Wendy experience. So for right now, I'm going to switch over to Jack, who is the steward of the realm of infrastructure. Hey, Jack, and I like your background there.
I thought I would find something relevant to the future. Maybe that was Wendy's attempt at 17 seconds of holding dead air. Yeah, it was an incredible experience to lead the discussion on infrastructure and habitat, which originally was infrastructure and resources, and kind of morphed on the fly. You know, and just a little bit about me to kind of set the stage for it. I described myself in one of the sessions as kind of a recovering capitalist, basically a recovering, you know, corporate as primacy and free market will solve all our problems. After nearly 40 years in the corporate world, I saw that wasn't working. Some people are slow learners, and my career was in the environmental field, but I knew there was something bigger for me to do, and I saw that it just wasn't working. And in fact, things were getting worse. So that caused me to go through a journey that brought me ultimately here, and we'll see where it takes me from here. But we talked so much about the breakdown of infrastructure and housing and the decay and you know, damage to our infrastructure, the difference between infrastructure that's available in developed countries versus, in some cases, no infrastructure in developing countries, and just went through the whole cycle of where there are pain points around infrastructure. It underlies everything. Infrastructure is the underlying structure that supports everything. And you can only build as strong as your foundation is, and the integrity in your foundation. So we ultimately were able to talk through those pain points and really touch on some things that overlap quite a bit, obviously, with other realms, technology. We touched on how social media has really, driven a wedge and created more division. And there's ways we can use technology to actually, bring people together and to honor the earth and honor nature more by gamifying that. And we had a representative who is working on that. We talked about how we had this concept of money is necessary to live, and it's really not necessary to live. We need resources to live, but we don't need money to live. And so, if we start looking at things differently, that's the beginning of how we can begin to change this and learn more from nature, the building in the background. If we learn, nature has a lot of lessons for us. And I think our overall conclusion was we need to get back in touch with nature, learn the lessons from nature. Infinite intelligence has great information for us, and we need to make use of that.
Jack, thank you so much. The merging between infrastructure and nature, I'm looking forward to that, especially like what's in your background. Like I want that. Anybody else want that?
Cool, right?
Yeah. I'd really like to introduce Miss Anastara, realm keeper of spirituality and religion.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and for Trish and Scott to invite us and have us be present in this moment. And just checking in, you can hear me, yes? Okay, awesome. Wonderful. So, having the honor of being the steward of spirituality and religion really brought up a lot of things this week as we're moving from the new moon, the total solar eclipse, through this week into the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter that's going to create the Bethlehem star in the sky, which we haven't seen from Earth in 800 years. And so we're moving from this age of Pisces into our new golden age of Aquarius. And with that comes acknowledgments that some of the old systems, old ways of being, even the dogma that's been created in religion no longer serves, because we're such a conglomeration of, we're all a variety of cultures, and because of this, we can build a whole new realm of spirituality where we can bring in different pieces that we're drawn to. So the word cultural appropriation came up, and we said, is it really appropriation, or is it cultural appreciation? To have one piece come in and one piece come in, and that creates your ceremony and your spirituality and what you're feeling called into. And something came up is, what did Buddha ask the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything, right? And so when we feel and understand that we are all interconnected by this divine matrix within our own energetic field and each other and all of our reality, our 3D reality, that we're all connected on a cellular basis, on a magnetic basis, and on a frequency basis. And when an individual raises their frequency by beginning within through meditation or breath work or prayer or anything that you feel called to ground you and center you and clear your chakra system, then these are the things that can emanate love and understanding and compassion and acceptance for others. As we move into this new golden age of Aquarius, it's important to remember that everybody has their own path. Everyone has their own unique path to God, Source, Buddha, Allah, Mohammed, Jesus, Sophia, whatever name you put to it, even if it's your own internal source energy, consciousness that you consider godlike, that that is for that person, and just because it's right for them doesn't make it wrong for someone else, and vice versa. So we have to move away from the duality and into the oneness and the interconnectedness, that we are all interconnected and together as one. And when we come from a place of compassion and love and acceptance, we will move into the golden age of collaboration and cooperation. So thank you for having us, and what a powerful week to share in all this.
Thank you. And I want everybody to take a breath with what Anastar just said, because that's the point, is recognizing our oneness, that there is no blank space between us. There's just the illusion of blank space, that we truly are one incredible unified field of ever-changing molecules, and that we do impact each other. And we are leaving the old paradigm of right, wrong, good, bad, and entering the new paradigm of oneness, of recognizing that we're all interconnected, and nobody is better or worse than anyone else. So I'm so appreciating your sharing that, Anastar. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, with that, what a perfect lead into education. So I'm going to bring on Mark, who is our steward of education and learning. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. So what a fantastic space has been emerged. And I think what I've taken from this excellent conversations that we had is that everything really is about creating that ecosystem, that space that accepts all the things that are around it. It's not a rejection or a, in order to learn this, you have to forget that. It is an acceptance and something that transcends and includes the previous, rather than this notion of separation and my way's right and your way's not, highway job. Instead, it's a transcend and include, and that really we're moving towards healing harmony, and that healing harmony on the earth is that same transcend and include. And just like Buckminster Fuller said, we have to build the systems that make the previous systems obsolete. So it's not about smashing old systems. It is about, again, inclusivity. And moving out of this limited box concept of this is how education looks. Education is you learn math, you learn English, you learn science, you learn geography, and you just go and you learn what's in the book and you just absorb it. And now, have you absorbed it? Right, now write down what you've learned. Come on, let me see. Okay, good, you've learned from the book. And it's previously been nullifying. I'm not sure if that's the right word. It's been reductionist and putting people into box-like Borg cubes. And we're moving into honoring the being that is in front of us, honoring the being that is learning. Oh, I didn't start my thing. Oh, honoring the being that's in front of us, and honoring that new culture of acceptance of what is this being in front of me, and as honoring their entirety, what do they have to teach me, and what can I share to them with that same honor. I mean, it's honor. It's what it is. And you can't force coherence. You can't force a flower to open flower. It just, you beam it with light and it does the work. And the same, we're all flowers and we're all trees and we're all the same ecosystem, as above, so below. It's, as to the left of me, so to the right of me. And so this notion of teaching co-regulation and independent regulation, as opposed to this notion of, dependency. Now, is an interesting flow, because as children, we're dependent on our parents. And when it's no good saying to your 1-year-old child, get on with it. Do sort your own food out. There is a dependency, and then we evolve and move on from that. The problem is with the system that we've got in the past is it's never taught that independence and co-regulation and co-emotional intelligence to the now adults who are really just children in an adult's bodies. And so creating the safe space, I'm nearly done. So creating safe space for place-based learning and respecting the location is important, and interacting with village governments to create local groups. So going out there and creating the micro message that creates the macro. And first within us, have inner understanding within us, so that then we can provide a safe space to be curious, to meet people where they are. Where are you, child? Where are you, adult? I meet you, I honor you. And in fact, it's meeting the earth where it is and allowing the ecosystem to be met where it is.
Marco Baldi, it sounds really, to me, really like heart-centered learning, heart-centered connection through, understanding the knowledge that we all have, like really returning to the wisdom of knowledge of our body, of our ecosystem, of our communities, and of the earth.
I mean, there has to be honor and respect for the entire system, but really not just falling into the hippie category of all heart. It's heart and mind. They are the unities, the sides of the coins that they can't live without each other. Of
course.
We are the spiraled kundalini of yin and yang, constantly spiraling and fractalizing into ourselves.
Yes, and I'm absolutely there with you. The merging, the no longer wrestling with the mind, but really loving it for what it does, what it offers, and really giving it an opportunity to teach us what it has to teach us, and also to allow the mind to learn from the body.
Right, back and forth. It is surrendering to win.
Absolutely.
And there's a slight paradox there, and people get scared when paradoxes come because they don't know quite how to fix it. When really it's not about fixing, it's about trusting.
Absolutely. It's about not fixing, but being in acceptance of.
Right.
I've changed my definition of love recently to acceptance of what is.
Absolutely. And in fact, when I had my deepest love experience of going beyond mind in meditation, love was not enough of a word for me. And I actually said, this is ultimate acceptance. Love just didn't do it for me. It was the ultimate acceptance of the nusness that just freed me from needing to change it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd really love to hear from the thing that I'm spending most of my attention and energy on these days is business and economics. Hi, Peter.
Hey, everybody, let me start my timer where I can see it. Hi, my name is Peter Bedard, and I am just happy to be here. When I was first approached about this process, this program, I thought, oh, well, I'll be in the health area for sure, because that's what I do. And I have stepped in for business and economics, and I have to tell you, it's been just a fascinating experience, and it pushed me, which I love. It actually, my comfort zone would have been health. That's who I am, what I do, how I operate, where I spend my life energy in that area. And I had to shift it up, and I had to go, okay, what does health look like in business and economics? And I met just some amazing people. I just want to do a shout out to Glow and Marco Baldi and Vishal. There's quite a few people that I just got to meet and just be in your presence. And it was a pretty awesome experience. So thank you. Some observations. One, I think it's interesting as somebody who is more in the holistic side of life, and who's never had or who's resisted corporate jobs. I found it interesting that I was resistant to connect on a business level, and yet I'm a businessman. I have my own healing tea company, and I have my private practice, and I write books and stuff like that, and that's business. And I found it interesting. One of the biggest observations I had was I tried to get people to take their ideas, these etheric concepts of peace and freedom and connection, and all these concepts for how they want the world to perform, how they want the world to be. And it was very difficult for the people that participated in our talks to find tangibles. Like I said, well, what does that look like? How do we bring that sense of freedom into physical form? Because what the brain knows, it can create. But if the brain only knows freedom as a concept, then it doesn't know how to bring freedom into physical experience. And I kept running up to people. They had these ideas and these big ideas and these exciting ideas. And I say, so what does that actually feel like? Not what it's like in your brain, but what's the actual feeling, the tangible of that experience? And can we bring it more into physical form? Because we need to. We need to call these amazing experiences that everybody's talking about. We need to call them into physical form, like under infrastructure, that building that it may only be a drawing, I don't know, but that building gives you a vision, it gives form, it gives shape. And there was so much resistance to do that. And so that's one of my biggest takeaways in what I observed. And, maybe I'm just, I'm only speaking through my own filters. So I apologize if I didn't hear anybody correctly. But when I was doing our talk and our board, I'm going to stop my timer because it's right there. There wasn't a lot of solid form. And so I'm just going to pass that up.
Well, you came on, you ended early. You confused me. Oh, thank you.
Oh, I was watching my timer. I stopped at 3:30.
Oh, good job. Good job, Peter. Well, we have one amazing, wonderful person left, and that's Jonah. And Jonah's one of our favorite guests. He's been on Street Talk a few times. He's been on Saturday Night Alive. Hey, Jonah, you are representing justice and protection. Tell us about that.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, it's so good to be here with you. Thank you, Trish, all the stewards. Just an honor. Wow, justice and protection. The realm was really there was a part in the realm where literally there was like mountains were speaking to one another. I say that because it was a moment of we had one of the realm representatives was present at Standing Rock, and another realm representative was Morgan Hale, and another representative was standing up for the watershed at Mount Shasta, and is currently in that space and holding space and protecting that water. And so we had Standing Rock protecting water rights there for Native Indigenous people. We had water rights in Mount Shasta, and then we had sacred sites. Another brother, Daniel Henry Smith, who was holding space up at Mauna Kea. And so 3 of the realm representatives were in like deep sacred like action of protecting our most vital resource, and that is water. And to have that conversation really come in was just mind blowing. And I enjoyed really as a steward of that space, being in deep listening, and seeing from what wanted to come up and what needed to be present and aware. And so much of it is exactly what all of our realms are speaking to, and it is the justice component of it. We need to really take in a notion of it's just us, the oneness that is all just us, and that gets to be like our main focus area of like every bit we're interconnected with every single thing, every molecule, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the matter that we feel, the fire within our spirit, to be in this is just us, and so by protecting our natural resources is protecting ourselves, and bringing justice to ourselves is bringing justice to our natural resources, right? Bringing justice to the environment, bringing justice to Mother Earth is bringing justice to ourselves. And so seeing all of that, and then another part that I really wanted to bring some presence to also, feeling into the education, because I feel like what Peter was sharing, like if I were to be dropped into a steward of a realm, I probably would have went with education and learning, because that's where I do most of my wheelhouse and work. And so, and then I find myself in this justice and protection and being called into spaces of leadership and working from that standpoint, and the protection of our the next generations, is what really comes up, is thinking about that as we again come into the justice and the protection around our earth and all of our natural resources, our elements, that we are also standing up in protection of the next generations, and then this can come even more into deeper process of thinking about, like, from a pain point that came up was, that's funny. I sat here on the clock the whole time and then didn't press start. But the last part I want to just say is, like, thinking about the education component in our schools, and what's been happening in our schools. Not only is the learning in that system been there, but literally the safety, the feeling of safety, that to be in a space of curiosity and of learning, like, if we need to create the space, because learning is natural. It's a natural part of who we are as beings, is to just really to evolve, to experience, to explore, to see what this life is all about. And if this space around us is safe, the sacred, protected, activated, conscious environment, if that's what space is, like, let's explore it, and let's really enjoy being in this in all of these realms together, with protection around the entirety of this divine matrix. And I feel that's why we're all here. Aho.
Jonah, thank you so much for such a sweet, vibrant heart, and your words are always just so holding. They're so comforting. Like, they're like a hug in this crazy time. It's so sweet.
Good, because we don't get to hug as often as we would otherwise need to right now, right? And
I hope you all enjoyed Jonah's vocal hug in the world in this time of COVID. I'd love to hear from Wendy Silvers again, and just to really complete her thought around science and technology and the integration of spirit science.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity. And, everybody has spoken to a piece of it. I feel like we're all spokes on the one wheel, and we all represent that unity. And I feel like I have a very strong connection to the mother. I mean, I'm a spiritual midwife, and so it's about midwifing consciousness. And so in science and technology, when we look at the ancient wisdom, I'm just setting my timer so I don't just continue to talk without a limit. We really have the opportunity to come together and to weave a new world by bringing love and compassion to all of these different areas, as John talked about, the lungs of Mama Earth, of Gaia. And so in science and technology, we have the opportunity to really dive into the fact that science is never settled, and that it is about the activation of the critical mind, that in what's happening now in terms of just us, that we are the harbingers, we are the sacred architects and the spiritual midwives of a new world, because we're inquiring about how can we how can we heal what's out of balance? How can we bring, I heard one of the stewards just spoke about the container, and I think about masculine energy and feminine energy, and I feel like the natural energy of the masculine, and it's not exclusive, is to hold that container, and the natural energy of the mother is, and the feminine is to bring things in, to harvest. And so I feel like this particular opportunity to be with science and technology is about the conscious technology of weaving love and compassion and consciousness into science, evolving humanity forward with loving kindness in technology. We talked about artificial intelligence, and what Zanka Caro talked about is that that's just a segment. It's not everything, because as long as we are here, there's going to have to be space for the beings called human. So we really are the stewards of these different expressions of the one. And so I really appreciate having that opportunity to be in circle and to have a different experience with people I never knew before, talking about conscious science, talking about bodily autonomy, talking about freedoms. So it was a wonderful opportunity to go around the wheel and really take in what is being called of us. So we've been called. We've been called.
Absolutely. Beautifully stated, Wendy. Each and every one of you, I so appreciate your eloquence and the themes that are emerging of collaboration. I'm going to turn it back over to Sadiq to share with us a little bit about, I think we have 3 realms that the stewards are not with us. So Sadiq, tell us a little bit about the other 3 realms.
Yes, so the 3 realms that are not represented here tonight are health and wellness, governance and sovereignty, and then energy and consumption. And it was really beautiful. Each of those 3 had very different flavors to it. Governance and sovereignty, it was pretty amazing. It went really deep into a heated space, a heated discussion related to what we at Earthwalk would actually call a we 3 process. And what that means is, as I had talked about, I don't know if we actually shared this on Straight Talk last week, but I know we definitely talked about it on Sacred Sundays with you on Sunday. But the Me 3 movement is about taking Me Too to the next stage and encircling a trauma with love for all 3 points on the trauma triangle: the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator. So all 3 are encircled with love. And so similar, our concept is to do the same thing in each of these realms. So like in business or in economics, in some scenarios, as an example, with the Occupy movement and Bernie Sanders and so forth, there's a lot of sort of like us and them, the 1% versus the 99%. And there's a villain and there's a victim, and there are right people and wrong people. And we're trying to move beyond that dialogue. And what was really amazing is in governance and sovereignty, there was a lot of fire, a lot of passion. And what was beautiful, and one of the things I love about this work, is that when we can agree that when we are sharing truthfully with one another, that the intention is to become closer with one another. The intention is not to say, like, you're bad, you're wrong, but the intention is to say, like, ouch, like that really hurt. Like when you shared that, I noticed constriction in my heart. When you talked about the way, about systemic racism, and it seemed to me that you were in your privilege within what I'm projecting as how you grew up in the world. I noticed myself shrinking away. I noticed myself pulling back. And it was amazing because you had these 2 individuals, 2 of the Rome representatives, who had very different life experiences, and they just jumped in there, and they were willing to bare their hearts. They were willing to share like how much it hurt, not from the angle of like making anyone bad or wrong, but just simply to bear our hearts open. And what happened in the willingness to go there and to stand in that fire was nothing short of magic. And in my experience, like when we went there with governance and sovereignty, and it was very interesting because every realm, as I mentioned, had different energetics. But as soon as governance and sovereignty went there, it almost was like it gave permission to the other realms to do the same thing. And I started noticing a pattern where some of the other realms started going into the pain points and really not like, we have a tendency sometimes in society to kind of, we don't talk about that, like not at this dinner table. And there was a shift that happened. So it was interesting noticing that happened in governance and sovereignty, that, this in this place, for those who, maybe don't know the word sovereignty. Sovereignty is like where we are sort of choose like what are our own rules, like how do we govern ourselves in life, how do I choose to operate in this world. And governance is more like what are our collective agreements, what are the organizing principles for society that we come together around. And it was just really powerful. So
Sadiq, I think a few of our panelists actually want to add a couple of things to what you're saying right now. And so just anybody who wants to add, go ahead and speak, and the spotlight will automatically go to you. And I just want to, while we wait for someone to jump in, it's so interesting what you're saying, Sadiq, because I just did a session with a couple today where that was the very thing we were working on, of how to express when we hear something and we contract, we feel hurt, we get hurt feelings, how to express that in a way that's not a guilt trip, it's not blamey, shamey, but it's actually a vulnerable expression of tenderness. And amazing timing, because I was working with a couple that's been married for 15 years that really struggle with that. And so thank you for voicing that. And I know Jonah definitely wanted to say something. So Jonah, feel free to jump in, or anybody else that wants to add something.
Yeah, I wanted to, in the way that last week when we had this conversation, there was a moment where Sadiq was like, "Where's infrastructure right now? Right? We don't have a house. Like, where's our foundation in the conversation?" And I'm having a similar experience right now with where's our health and wellness, where's our governance and sovereignty, and where is our energy and consumption? Like where's our presence to that, our present awareness around that? Where is our consciousness around that? The level of health that when we look about it, and I'm going to stay kind of here in the U.S., to look at where our health is, at our current state of health, as a nation, like, especially given the coronavirus, like the amount of deaths that are taking place right now is a reflection to like where our health is, and how well we've been taking care of ourselves and how well we've been taking care of our communities, our families, and then our, like, the governance component of it, right? Like our government, first of all, it's government, it's not governance. And taking a look at even that wording of it, is like we've been governing our mental body, right? Emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can set us free. Like governance, what are we collectively operating under? How are we conducting ourselves, as sovereign beings? And then to look at the last piece is the energy and consumption. You know, we're at this time of year right now, it's Christmas, right? As a holy day, as a holiday. This is probably the largest consuming time of the year, where we're consuming energy and consuming items. Like, I just picked my daughter up from like a gift exchange experience at her school, and she got a frozen Elsa doll that's put in a plastic like container, right? So it's inside of plastic. Where's that going to go? It's made of plastic. Where's that going to go? Right? And not to mention the brainwashing involved of hundreds and thousands of kids in this Frozen movie that came out. There was a whole like epidemic of itself, you know, from my opinion. So this is kind of like where, like what Scott was just saying, what he just was in, the realm that he was in, and like this was the realm that I was in right before this conversation, and so it's present, and so I wanted to bring that present here. So thank you all for listening to that. Oh,
Thank you, Jonah. Thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything before we kind of go into the next round?
Yes. This is Jack. Just really quickly. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jack, and you're on camera. We're seeing you.
Okay, great. So, yeah, just I'm so glad Jonah just brought that up about where is infrastructure in relation to housing. Like, do you know we have a housing shortage, right? I'm not talking about like for the homeless and for, you know, the lower tiers of society. I'm talking about this county that I live in, which is one of the richest counties in the country. Houses are selling like this because people are moving out of the city. They can work from anywhere. And so there's a big demand for little mini mansions. So now we have a shortage of those. I'm like, seriously? You want me to feel bad about this? Like, our infrastructure is driven by the wrong motives. We're measuring the wrong thing. We're measuring GDP, we're measuring profit, we're measuring the wrong things. And our infrastructure is driven by that, and it's driven by fossil fuels. It's driven by how do we build around the use of cars? When in a few years' time, a significant number of people are not going to own cars. They're going to be sharing cars or sharing rides, and car ownership in the future is going to be very different. So just wanted to put that in around infrastructure. Our old infrastructure is crumbling and it's time for a new one. And the old one was built on the basis for the time, but it doesn't fit the future.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah.
Scott.
Wendy, go ahead.
Trish, is it okay if I jump in there? I just saw you wanted, yeah? Okay, thank you. So this is a great dialogue, and I wanted to revisit something, Sadiq, you talked about the systemic racism and trauma, and how important it is to presence it and to acknowledge it. And so when I think of infrastructure and I think about the fabric of if you live in America, the fabric of America was built upon systemic oppression. And when we look around, you know, who are the stewards of these realms, and are we representing the need for racial equity, racial reckoning? But it's that and when I hear about the infrastructure and I hear about the housing crisis, I think about UN Agenda 21, and I think about UN Agenda 30, and I think about, you know, big tech titans dictating medical procedures or health procedures. Like and I think about media, and I think about tech titans and big ag and big pharma and big gov corporatizing media so that what's being fed to the general population is not of the substance that engenders critical thinking, but it leads with fear, and it serves those who benefit from everybody being enslaved by fear. So when we come together in this realm, the opportunity to lead with love and compassion, to be able to presence safely wow, that made my heart constrict. I took this very brilliant class called From Race to Grace, and we talked about all of the different books, and it was a largely Black and brown attended person attended course, and it was heartbreaking to hear about what our Black and brown brothers and sisters have endured, and how tired they are, and how we of pale skin have such privilege and ingrained superiority by the nature of having pale skin. And then I widen the lens as spiritual beings having a human life experience. Nothing is happening by accident. We're here on purpose with a purpose. So how will we use that awakened consciousness? How will we use the privilege and the superiority? Because again, I believe it's all interconnected. And there must be that container, that infrastructure that transforms education so that we can actually help our kids grow up to have dialogues like this and not have their pineal glands completely calcified by fluoride and pesticides. So I leave that here because I feel like perhaps we can actually create that so that there's a foundation not built on sand and not built on greed and acquisition. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wendy. That was beautiful. And I want to say, honestly, I feel sad that other than Jonah, it's all white people on this panel, right? And it is really important for us to be much more diverse culturally. And there is the importance for us to use our privilege for the betterment of all, and to recognize how incredibly privileged we are. And to also take a look at the subtle ways that we still try and hold on to that privilege. And as an older white man, I can say that because we do that. It's there. It's really there. And I want to turn it over to my partner, Trish, who's got something to share about sovereignty.
Well, as you know, that's really the core piece of my teaching in the world and my work in the world is this place in calling in oneself to being self-governing, to call in your thoughts as your own or as closest to your own, but to really call yourself into your spirit and into your heart and move from that place, not being a place of, choosing this person's ideas or this person's ideas and melting and merging yourself into something that isn't you, but actually holding yourself in the container that feels vibrational in your heart, right? So choosing self-honoring choices that also honor your community in the world, right? So sovereignty doesn't look like I am independent and I'm, no one else is here, but really, self-governing, self-choosing, honoring of one's choices, one's spirit, and honoring the choices of those who love and want to move through the world.
I want to say for a moment, Trish has a wonderful show she does every week on self-love. And the thing to remember is that self-love is not selfish. When we love ourselves in a healthy way, and I'm not talking about narcissistic, egotistical self-love. That's not real self-love. That's bullshit. But when we truly love ourselves, when we have a healthy container of self-love, we want to make life more wonderful for other people. We want to contribute to the well-being of the people around us. We want to contribute to the well-being of the world. And it's the same thing really with what she was just saying about sovereignty. True sovereignty is not putting up walls. It's having enough self-confidence and knowing one's boundaries that one then can extend to others in a healthy way. So
I really believe that sovereignty is being able to choose. is the actual, honest, true choice that I can literally choose one way or the other without feeling some guilt or shame that's not mine, that I can choose to love. And yes, I saw Russell wants to riff off the sovereignty piece.
Take it away, Russell.
Good Lord, yes, I want to riff off the sovereignty piece. So it was perfect because I was just very much in this called empty cup space and just I'm so full, I'm empty from this conference. And I was just waiting, just feeling, and boom, Trish, you really like helped me just brought me into this convergence moment. Is that sovereignty, and this is going to lead into a really juicy point about the heart. There's a dear brother of mine, Elijah Parker. As I've been exploring, really sovereignty and his incredible pearls of wisdom, he said to me one day, he said, "In true sovereignty, no one is left unaffected." So as I pause in that deeply pregnant moment, that just worked me way beyond my intellect. I was like, yes, true sovereignty is connection to the whole, is being a whole person. The only way to make clear choices, the only way to live a healthy life is to be correlated to divinity, however we understand that, to a divine unified intelligence. How can we make a new choice? How can we make a change? How can we think differently if we are not correlated, if we're not connected to our source, the source of life itself? Otherwise, we're angled, we're coming from some other influence. So that part there, how do we do that? Because under all this conditioned reality that we're in, we have to have experiences, rites of passage, passing through one state or identification into something more free. We have to have experience. There's no words are ever going to give anyone that. We have to take time. We have to slow down. We have to cultivate deep relaxation and safety to let the heart thaw so we can feel clearly once again what is real and true. And one of the most primary ways is which has been threaded through this entire convergence and through all of our communities. I think we unanimously agree that one of the last, greatest, purest teachers is Madre Tierra, Mother Earth, is nature, the natural intelligence of life. So spending time in nature to let us relax in so we can, again, create a condition of safety so we can let go and feel clearly is the only way in that way. Yes, we can work in different ways, but as a fundamental shift, it has to come from a healing of the heart, a thawing of the heart, and to begin to feel clear once again so we can see each other from those fresh eyes, the eyes of the heart.
And that is the truth. The eyes of the heart coming from passing one's truth through the heart, because that's where we all connect, right?
Oh.
Sadiq, we've got 45 minutes left. Where would you like us to go?
Man, a curiosity that I had was diving a bit into what we did last Friday night, which is to open up an active dialogue between the different realms, as if each of us were not only like our individual person and the experience we have related to this realm, but that we're actually embodying the realm itself. So if and when I'm talking to Becky, I'm not only talking to Becky, I'm talking to Becky as a representative and sort of like an anchor, like a oracle, if you will, a voice of that realm. So we can have a sacred dialogue and have a conversation between like maybe spirituality has something to say to business and economics, or maybe justice and protection has something to say to learning and education. Whether it's gratitude, love and appreciation, or maybe there's hurt there. and to kind of go into what some people call like a sacred drama, where we really deepen into the character, and we move just beyond ourselves. We move into the realm of the gods and goddesses.
Man.
So do we have some people who want to start that dialogue and take the next step? Becky wants to talk with justice and protection. That sounds like a good one. So let's do that. All right. So Becky, putting the spotlight on you.
So, justice and protection. We've been watching you, media and communications, and we've made a lot of money off of the things that have gone wrong as justice and protection has gone on. And we've told a lot of stories that are true and a lot of stories that are divisive. We've brought a lot of attention to things. I want to hear about how we might have hurt you as justice and protection. You know, I want to hear about the pain that the media has done for our brothers and sisters who started in professions that were rooted in a place of love and true protection. I want to hear about that pain and honor that pain.
Thank you, Becky. Media and communication. You felt me calling you. I wanted to have this conversation as well. Yeah, there's a request that we have is for the media to really hold and broadcast the truth of what's going on, so that there isn't a narrative or a drama created there, but rather to give freedom for the critical mind and the people to take the information and do with it what they will. You know, protection, when I think of protection, I think of the law enforcement and its protection. I think of our military and paramilitary bodies and the amount of trauma that is there from not being represented in their fullness and wholeness as to why they enlisted to begin with. To speak about the personal stories and to dive into the personal stories as opposed to making it a story about a particular hero, but rather to get in and really think about what has transpired and to think about what's really going on also, so that the trauma is known. You know, I think we're unaware of the true trauma that takes place from the stance of what really takes place in protecting the people and protecting our culture. You know, and we also have apologies to make in our position of justice and having taken a stance around what lobbyists and other powers that be are manipulating our system from really actually seeing and holding the stance in the pillar of truth. And so for that, we apologize. And I think that between the two of us that we can bring back transparency. Thank you for this connection.
Thank you. Who would like to foster the next conversation?
Okay. Who's up next?
Ah,
I'd like to.
Hello. Hello. Spirituality and religion here, reaching out to business and economics. So long ago, our mythology and our religion, sacred practice, and one in which did not involve money or memberships or the business of the church. And I would like to open the doorways to business in how people who have a spirituality that they want to share with others, that they can do this and also create and accept abundance in their life. And that includes finances. There's a trauma, there's a hurt and a pain of healers and women who were considered witches, that instead of being honored for their gifts and their healing abilities and the spirit that moved through them and guided their life, they were actually taken and ostracized and burned at the stake. And so that feeling, that remembrance is in a lot of spiritual beings in this moment in time. And so they look outward and they say, how can I make money being a healer? Healer is something that flows through me. How can I put monetary prices on the things that I'm offering? And so business, I ask you, how can we reconnoiter that? How can a spiritual person offer their gifts to the world and still receive the abundance, knowing that they have created a business around what they can offer?
Well, I love that, and it speaks to my heart. And I want to say that witches are the shaman of Europe. And I don't think people really understand that our witchy mothers were our shaman, and they knew the healing, they knew the herbs, they knew the practices, and they have been for too long afraid of business that harmed them. And as they come back into the world, I think you're directly speaking to people coming back in and having traumas in a cycle, right? And being afraid. And there's a lot of people that also, especially in the holistic world that you're speaking to, don't know how to value themselves. And I would love it to invite the holistic peoples to come in and correct the wrongs that were done in business, that to come in and use their witchy magics to transform business into the spiritual marketplace that it can be, into spiritual economics, into heartfelt economics, heartfelt business. Because business is a tool, and so many people forget that. They take business and they make it this big monster that's outside of them and outside of who they are, where business is just people and business is relationship. And when we can start understanding that and working in that and valuing ourselves as well as valuing the what we offer to the world, however you put it out there, but to call forth that valuation. No, your evaluation may be bartering, your evaluation may be some other form, but it still is a business. It is still a process of identifying yourself, creating something to share with people, and taking that thing and putting into a tangible. And the tangible may be a session, and you're just showing up for the session, and everything in the session is etheric, but there's a tangible transformation that happens in that process. And to not forget that, to actually value these things, because so often people are so in their heads and they so are demonizing the other. And all that does is create the separation that they claim they do not want. And so business has done pretty shitty things to keep it really basic. There are things, just as in the name of religion, there are things that have been done that are not okay. And so to bring the healing, to bring the love, to bring the compassion, to bring your skills as a healer, I believe that it's your responsibility to mend these types of relationships. I believe it's part of your responsibility, like that governance, like taking responsibility for who you are, how you are, what you do, what you think. And I'm inviting you to pick up the tools of business, because business has the access to economies. Business has the access to systems. So instead of trying to tear the system down, rebuild the system, create a new system, evolve the system. And where the system doesn't work for everybody, step in and create a solution instead of going and throwing your arms up and saying, I don't want to be part of it.
Finding
so,
a new way.
yeah. And let's step into that.
Yeah.
So, and I think that business has shown that it is open and receptive to this type of thing. Not all business. Like the old paradigms, there's still resistance, but there are whole new paradigms that are being developed. And so I invite you, because a lot of people expect business to step forward and to do it for you. And they make business a human. And then they get mad at that human, where business is an abstract. And so you can use the tools of business to create change. Don't expect business to do it for you.
Indeed.
Well,
Thank you.
I don't want to pick a fight with business. This is peace and relations.
Right?
But go slow there, Peter, because it's choices that are being made by people.
Yes.
It's not business. We call it business, but it's choices people are making.
Exactly what I was trying to communicate, that
Yeah,
business is people.
Right, because in my case, choices are being made to make a lot of money off of selling weapons.
Yes.
And it doesn't help. When people have all these weapons, they want to do something with them. And so there's a deeper conversation to be had about how business is using business. And maybe the paradigm shift you're talking about, one of the indigenous elders I know calls this a planetary cosmic reframe process. What she's saying is we need to think about how we're thinking about these things. And we have to be able to look for affirmative win-win situations. So I understand business needs to make a profit, whether it's in the energy world but it's also destroying our planet.
Yep. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Who has the authority? If
That's why
we're all sovereign, who are you accountable to? I ask each of us that. And make sure we're not using some spiritual bypass to not be accountable for the mess we've made.
Exactly.
And I say that in all love and respect, and with the hope that if we can all respect each other's rights and then determine how we create win-win situations, business might still thrive, but it doesn't have to be a death-producing, destructive life force.
You're right.
Yeah,
And
I want to say to you, relations and peace building and spirituality and religion, that science and technology has abused and used power over structures to really decimate people and their traditions and their practices in the name of world domination, in the name of no space left unturned that can't be utilized for technology, and to engage politicians and media moguls to completely disregard the human and their needs. And I am sorry. I'm so sorry, because I know the damage that has been done and continues to be enacted upon the humans of the earth. And I would like to see business be about the business of helping people thrive and flourish. For instance, the great teacher, Yeshua ben Joseph, he didn't necessarily give people fish, he taught them how to fish, and that was done figuratively. And so to have us join together in a way that we can empower people to support their families, to support their children, to not have to work 3 jobs and have kids be on the streets looking for things to do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So I'm going to step in, and I was asked to embody business a little bit more, and I'm going to take how I interpret that. And so I'm going to come in and say, as business in economics, it's not my problem. And as business is a win-win for everybody. So if you could prove that it's a win-win, let's do it. Let's make business. But if you're going to come in and just ask me to do it all for you, or you're going to ask me to change when the system I have is working, then
yeah, but your system is about dominating people. Your system only works for the top 1%. Your system, right. The system doesn't work. Right. Well, no, that doesn't work.
Well,
I'm saying I don't want to participate with you. I do not want to play with you.
So all you're doing then, well, I'll play with you. So all
I don't want to play
then,
with you.
Well, great. Then I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep doing it better and better and harder and harder and faster and faster.
Peace and relations.
Where's the justice in that?
Let's take a moment here. This is exactly the situation we find ourselves in.
Yep.
We're going to need some justice and protection here pretty soon.
We might need some justice and protection here, John. I mean, that's the challenge to us, a design challenge. How do you create a win-win situation here? Because first off, I mean, just to be clear, business as exchange is historical. That's always been a good thing. The problem is the world of speculation and calculation, which is the world of business as it's often understood, is where greed and with the idea that, make a profit at all expense, but then the consumer gets to vote with the dollars. I mean, there's a way to have this healthy conversation where business is waking up to its power and influence.
Well, then wake me up, because I'm all right. So again, this is not me personally. I'm just being business, doing what I was asked to do. So I'm going to say, wake me up, because all I'm hearing is mumbo jumbo. I'm not hearing tangibles.
Well, but aren't we talking about peace and relations of peace? Aren't we talking about bringing tonifying elements? Because what I'm experiencing with you, business, is toxicity. And what we're talking about is bringing people back into the equation, bringing people and their needs back into the equation, because the energy, the exchange is very toxic. So if we want to play together, can we find a way to play together where we're serving the evolving humanity and serving profit, but not profit over people?
Yeah, I want to jump in there as culture is feeling a need to just be in this pool with you and ask the question, what do we all value? We are not in a shared reality. Our agreement field is completely convoluted. And perhaps we've been that way for a long, 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 long time. If we want to move together forward, we have to go back and we have to go inward. What is it that you want? business and economy? What is it you want, science, technology? And until we have a shared reality, we're going nowhere.
I think that I stated, I said what I want is for us to bring consciousness.
Is that
And
you
that
as
this is
science and
about,
technology, or is that science and technology, or is that you as the
yeah,
individual?
yeah, because I think that thanks to media, the whole concept of science and technology has been hijacked.
Okay, wait, before we
And
go, Randy, hold on. I'm still establishing.
hang on, one sec. So I believe what I said is we want to bring consciousness so that we can find a way to work together.
Beautiful. So then let's lay that on the table, not as divisive ways. Like I'm hearing that science technology wants consciousness. We have to come to if business doesn't understand that or want that, we have to reevaluate or go deeper. Is that appealing to you, business? Do you understand what that means? Is that a value for you? And if not, then science, technology, let's go deeper in our communication. Let's actually communicate of what we each need until we're in a shared reality.
Would I
So
speak?
explain.
I speak as education, please.
You may.
Thank you. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Justice. I believe we need to be released from the grip of business as an all-encompassing thing. Release education and individual wellness from the grip of business. Business can be for commerce, for exchange, but releasing humans. Education, why has education been inflicted with this exclusivity? And I have allowed it. I have allowed myself to be corrupted by the rich who would fund my research, who would fund my work. And I've continued to offer exclusive access to my work as if it was something given to special people. I have been unjust. Justice, I have been unjust to our people. I have been corrupted by business. And I have given myself over when really in justice I should have given to all. And business, I want to know how you can support philanthropically the wellness of humans. I don't believe that we should have education. I don't want to be anymore. I don't want to be a slave to money anymore. I don't want to be a slave to business anymore. And I don't want health. The health and the wellness starts in our education. I'm sorry I've let myself do this. I want out and I want in again.
Education, I forgive you. You have programmed everyone to believe certain things so that we'll operate in a certain way in society and that we will create businesses and science and technology. My goodness, you are business in a sense, because everything that comes out as far as research goes is whoever's paying for the research gets the results they want, right? And so it really is about following the money. When you look at science and technology and what is actually being put out there in the mainstream, it really is about who's supporting it financially. That's what we're going to be told. That's what we're going to be shown. And so, yes, there's this connection here and needing that peace building and that relation to smooth out and be more coherent.
Yeah, right. In fact, if we could give business a break for a second, let's acknowledge there's an out of balance condition here. It's out of balance. We're not meeting all needs. We're not meeting the needs of all the people while we're sustaining life on the planet. And like Russ was pointing to, if we can have a values clarification and come to agreement that we want to meet the needs of everybody on this planet and do it in a way that sustains life on this planet for all living beings.
Yes.
And that's actually called the donut economics. There is a model that has been adopted by Amsterdam and other places to help start to think this way, because it's an out of balance thinking system where At times, I found myself as a peace and relations, caring about each of you. And the truth is that I can't fulfill the dream of peace and relations if you don't fulfill the dream for each of your own realms. So the hope for me at this point is we can somehow declare time out like the COVID did for us and use this great pause to say, hey, we need to change our direction. And
except I think that for that, there's got to be more truth and transparency. And that's where media comes into place.
Yeah.
And in terms of business and technology, the resolution is to begin to empower people individually. What is it that they would like to do with their lives? So it engages relation and peace building. It engages education. What are we feeling? When we remove the arts from children's education and replace it with science, technology, and math, there's the toxicity that I took responsibility for before, saying it's toxic. And business has lost its intention for empowerment for people, to give them autonomy. And so I agree that we've got to go back to what does it sounds kind of unrealistic, but business can be very transformational when it's led by the heart. And so what's happening with COVID, to me, feels like I have a bone to pick with media, because my science, my technology is not the same as what media is reporting. So then I go back to business and I want to find out, what is your motivation behind the misinformation that media, corporatized media, is being funded by? So then I go back to, I'm just in a process of exploration. Science in its native land, science and technology is all about asking questions and inquiring, and what's the technology can be. Spiritual practices are technology. Peace building is a form of technology. How can I give that back to people?
I'd like to speak for a moment on behalf of health and wellness. And I just want to insert two words into this conversation: holistic and sustainable. And for business, for media and communication, if we can start making our decisions from a place of really evaluating, is this holistic? Is this good for the whole? And is this sustainable? And that's where we can look to our indigenous elders for their wisdom, because the indigenous people understood that. They made decisions for 7 generations ahead. Whereas, of course, the current corporate world makes decisions based on what's the most profit we can make this year, or even this quarter. So I just want to add those 2 words in our decision making.
Can I respond?
Please.
So, as media, we've been driven by what Becky personally sees as money is the world religion. And as media, we make a lot of money off where people put their attention, and people want to see all of these things. They keep consuming it, and they keep buying it, and we keep making money off of advertising, which is fantastic for us. The more we can divide people, the more money we've made, media speaking, not Becky. And so the new media, though, wants to know, how do we tell one person's story? How do we support one person's story and have the currency of community be the currency, the primary currency, instead of the focus on money? What could that look like if we focused some of the resources that we have and monetary resources that we have on solutions around healing some of the problems that we hear in the storytelling? What could that possibly look like? It could be very co-creative and imaginative, and it could draw from each of the realms here to tell different stories, to tell stories in a completely different way, in a way that's unifying and empowering, and also not only recognizing that money can be an expression of love and a gift. We talk about the gift economy. Each of us have, each human being on earth has a gift to give in this world. And kids grow up thinking, oh, I've got to make sure my gift equates to money, otherwise it's not legitimate. What would happen if media and education worked together to have children rise up to believe that their gifts have more value than money, but money may be something that they're blessed with, that we together reimagine how money could be, given and received, as an expression of gratitude instead of control and transaction and oppression.
I believe that fear and safety are our key allies here. How do we create the safe spaces? And how do we eliminate fear as the motivating factor for the abuse in all of our systems? Why are we doing what we're doing? Because we're afraid of becoming obsolete. We're afraid of losing our power. And so the fear drives us to sneak and to avoid the holistic, to not consider what's good for the whole, but what's good for me right now. How do we let go of fear and become a trusting space? How do we create that trusting space? And I'm sorry that I was afraid of you, spirituality and religion, and I ejected you from my realms.
Yep.
Well, you were a bit abusive. You were a bit controlling, and you kicked out my friend Science and Technology. And you didn't want Science and Technology to be part of me. And they are me. We are them together. So now let us come back together without fear that we're going to abuse each other. Can we have agreement fields that we are going to work for the whole?
Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I believe we can have agreement fields for the whole. We must look at the whole, right? We are all pieces. We are all rainbow fractals of the same one diamond light. And so when we look at science and technology in all these sectors, it is about creating a holistic perspective. When we start seeing that each piece is a spoke of the same wheel, that we can operate and we can spin together in harmony. And so this is very important. Thank you.
Mm.
I think that the challenge of the relations, speaking as peace and relations, is to make it safe enough to tell the truth. When I say is that we do not know how to make those agreements. We may be wise enough to name that there is an agreement field, but I think the best shot we have at getting good at thinking of a life-affirming thinking system is to start by acknowledging that we're not competent at that. In fact, left to our own vices, we'll end up with more of the same. So here's a thought that shook me in this period of time when we started to light these fires. I was told of this prophecy, and what it's this eighth fire, that there may be an eighth fire lit. And they say at this time, it's interesting about the white skin. It says here, at this time, the light skinned race will be given a choice between two roads. One road will be green and lush and very inviting. The other road will be black and charred, and walking it will cut their feet. In the prophecy, the people decide to take neither road, but instead to turn back, to remember and reclaim the wisdom of those who came before them. There's something profound there for me. It seems to be like the obvious that wasn't obvious, that we have forgotten. And it's that, great humility that may be the way that we recover our relations. Because as we talk about taking care of each other, it's so clear that we really don't know how to do that. And they say it's intrapersonal holiness for interpersonal wholeness. That the best thing for world peace is this inner peace thing. And to you, my other realms, I need to, and we need to get better at being peace and showing peace and discovering the peace that's needed to make those kind of agreements. So I just want to offer that prophecy and also the potential for us to truly get good at it by recognizing how incompetent we've been at it so far. I'm not trying to be a downer, but I'm saying, it just kind of look at the situation we're in. And to create a safe and just space for humanity seems to be the game that's so essential.
Media and communications would like to tell that story out to the masses. And media communications also recognizes to bring in justice that we have not heard from the environment. And so we want to keep track of all of the 12 and try to honor. And so I wonder if Katie, from representing the environment, would like to reflect.
Thank you. Yeah. Feeling an invitation for everyone to feel whatever is closest to the earth and breathe into that. As we all walk our own walks of priority and interdependence in the dance of living, this is a shared grounding connective force between us all. And the tool of seeking beauty and reverence in this landscape of relationship that we all navigate through breath and deep connection to the land upon which our feet rest. Is a true guiding force in navigating the next step. And I know that environment was reshaped into energy and consumption over the course of today. And so thinking about the word consumption, I am often driven to a negative light or connotation, seeing consumption as an activity that's filling a void. And I think it's really important to have that perspective embodied and witnessed. And I also think that part of my reason in bringing up the question about money in the chat and curiosity about what is left when money is stepped aside from is the wondering about what's vital to our consumption. And in representing the earth, what first comes up for me, and that is water and food and air. And then webbing off of that, what comes is self and community sufficiency, and being able to tend to those we love through conversation and through creation. And to just bow in reverence for the land that we get to share this collective vision on. And I feel like I could talk to every realm about grievances and about prayers for a possibility, and we haven't the time for that, so I'll stop there.
Thank you for joining us. I'm glad we were able to hear from you. We only have a couple minutes left, and so I think I'd like to turn it over to Sadiq to let people know about the remaining events that are taking place in this incredible whole person convergence.
Great, thank you, Scott, and honorary steward of health and wellness. So tomorrow we are going to go, as I mentioned earlier, through 6 roundtables where we are inviting, we're bringing, so all 85 characters that went through the journey through the realms, 6 representatives per realm and 1 steward, are going to go through 6 rounds of roundtables where we're going to have sacred conversations like this, and where the invitation is going to really go into a deep space of like, how can we honor like what's there? So that's number 1. And so like taking a bit of what we saw here today and really like anchoring in like the perfection of what can happen when we bring our different parts together and we invite them to talk, and what changes inside of ourselves as we witness these archetypes in front of us, having these holy conversations that I imagine so many of us have on a daily basis within ourselves and as we navigate the world. So that's first. And then tomorrow evening, we're going to be joining Scott Catamas and Deborah Juski for an evening of Saturday Night Alive. And so that's from, I think if it's 6 to 9 Pacific time.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull up the poster for a moment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night's show is as we approach the winter equinox and the incredible Saturn Jupiter. Wrong one. I'm showing you the December 26th one. We're going to be all about activating ourselves. It's an energy activation show. And so we've brought on a lot of people that are really kind of leaders in the field of energy activation and understanding how to work with the energies. We've got Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, Elizabeth April, who's an amazing force of nature, Starhawk, Mirabai, the Stargate people, Julian and Prakeet, my good friend Guinevere Bridge, and music. We've got one of our favorite musicians, Joanna Beekman, coming back, and some new musicians for our show, Chris and Elizabeth Knudsen. So definitely join us tomorrow for the winter solstice, activating the new world.
Great. Yeah, and then the following morning, Sunday morning, we're going to be joining Scott again, and for Sacred Sundays, and we're going to have another special show where we're pulling together all of the realm representatives and stewards in 1 2-hour session. So what's happening during that time is Lynn McTaggart, who is a global transformational leader, oftentimes dubbed as the Dalai Mama, has done amazing work in the world, written a number of books, including The Field, The Power of 8, and Global Intention Experiments. And what she has been working on for the last about 2 decades at this point is how to harness the power of the mind and then actually through scientific studies show the net results of that. So what's going to happen is on Sunday, we're going to be focusing on specifically the political polarization that's happening here in the United States, and we're going to set collective intention around that. It's a surprise where specifically that energy is going to be directed, because Lynn's team measures studies of the impact of where we're going to be focusing our attention before, during, and after. But what's going to happen is we're pulling together all of the leaders who came together for this global convergence to galvanize our collective intention to focus on the political polarity that's happening here in the United States, and how we can encircle that space of trauma with love. After that, we're going to be joining Fantuzzi, and also, again, Scott Catamas is involved in partnership with all that. We're going to have 3 hours of solstice ceremony and bringing in musicians and artists and all sorts of fun. And then in the evening, we're going to have a sacred solstice eve fire ceremony and masquerade dance party. And I think that's probably about all I'm going to share for now. After that, we're going to finish with 2 days, including solstice on the 21st, connecting up with a live stream to the pyramids in Egypt during that transition point. Anastar is going to be a part of that, a few other people. We're going to be pulling in different parts of the world, really honoring that sacred transition in a powerful way, with the unification of spirituality and technology and communication, to really bring in this new era, that shifting from an era of galvanizing power to a focus on cooperation. So.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Sadiq. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. What an amazing group of people. I'd like to have each and every one of you on Straight Talk. I know that Trish and I would enjoy having quality conversation with all of you, and hopefully we can do that. And as always, I want to thank those of you watching at home, recognizing that most of the people who watch this show watch the replay. So thank you. Please do put comments in. I go back and I take a look at the comments, and I'm imagining maybe some of our guests will as well. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for Saturday Night Alive, and during the day for the amazing things that Earthwalk United is doing. God's blessings to us all. May we all play our role in the divine unfoldment of the creation of the new paradigm. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.